from USA Today, right? Mamdani says he'll bring free childcare to NYC. It's not easy, but is it possible? I just want to point this out before we read the article. There is nothing. There is nothing a government can provide to you that is free, and it never will be free, especially here in the United States, because all of the money that a government, whether it's a fucking a city government, a state government, or the government, right? Anything they provide to you requires money, right? Because you have to buy products or pay for services. They take that money from you through taxes by force. You're not allowed to opt in or opt out. They take it from you by force, and then they spend your money on this product. It's not free. It's your fucking money. This is like once you actually understand this concept, you will never support socialism and communism. People who don't understand this concept are the ones who support socialism and communism, right? Rebecca Balin pays $32,000 a year for her 5-month-old's daycare, childcare, or her all-day childcare in New York City. That is fucking insane, and you're being ripped off. The answer is not for the government to take more money from you by force to pay for it. The answer is for you to stop going to that fucking daycare. That's higher than the national average, but not usual. Many parents in the city and in other parts of the country can relate. As Care.com's 2025 cost of care report found, many parents spend 22% of their household income on childcare. Berlin said she couldn't find anything cheaper within walking distance of her home. And here's what I want to point something out to you guys. Feminism literally altered our economy to forcefully incorporate basically the other 50% of our population into the economy. So there was a structural change that changed the entirety of economics in our country to go from depending on 50% of the population to 100% of the population. So feminism is literally the cause for now everybody in this country has to work, and a single individual cannot afford to pay for things for their family and their significant other because of feminism. That was one of the tertiary effects of feminism. It completely altered our economics in a way that some people might have argued was foreseeable, but many people didn't, because obviously feminism was particularly an emotional response and not a logical response, right? So, right, now you're at a crossroads, because women have created our economy to be dependent on everybody working instead of just half of the population. So now both people, presumably in a relationship who have a kid, have to work. But here's the thing, right? Like, that was the unintended consequence, and nothing's ever going to change about that. So we need to change something else about society to incorporate that. And what that should be is that, unfortunately, for people who have kids, they have to have alternating work schedules, so that one of the other parents for a period of time can take care of the kid while the other parent's at work, or they work less hours while they have to provide more care for their child. You should be providing care for your child predominantly. Like, it should be like 90% you. You should not be putting your 5-month-old in the hands of other people to take care of your kid it's not all day. It's presumably for their work period, but that's at least 5 days out of every single week, right? At that point, if someone else is completely taking care of your kid, then you can't really bitch about the cost of paying someone else to completely take care of your kid. Right? And it's not completely, because you have the other 16 hours of the fucking day. Because you can't take care of your kid while at work in most circumstances. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is why it's important to impress upon people. You should be seeking a stable relationship and not just sleeping around with people. You should be seeking a relationship where you get married. We do actually need to get rid of no fault fucking divorce, right? Because that incentivizes people to increase. You have higher rates of divorce because of no fault divorce, right? Because no one's being held responsible, well, only men are being held responsible. And historically, only men have been held responsible for the most part for divorces and shit like that. But we need to impress upon our culture it's important to find a stable relationship before engaging in sex with that individual. And then, especially having a fucking kid. Because it takes two to tango. And that comes to creating a kid and raising a kid. Right? Got to get something to eat. Take care and thanks for the stream. Of course, Adel, thank you for being here. Thanks for contributing. I appreciate it. Adel had said, but that was the problem. We allowed food lobbying to get away so much that now they need to be phased out from what they created, but made money poisoning us. I mean, food lobbying got away with it. The American public got away with it, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you know, so people are spending enormous amounts and they can't make it work, but they don't have a choice. But Balin said, Balin said, she's executive director of New Yorkers United for Childcare, a nonprofit that started organizing parents, grandparents, and anyone else in favor of free childcare in 2023. There's no such thing as free childcare. Free child. You want to know how you guys get something that's free? Slavery. That's how you get something that's free. And even then, the people had to buy the slaves, or they had to trade for the slaves. They still have to provide some kind of form of nutrition for the slaves, right? But you can't get free childcare unless you are forcefully underpaying or not paying an individual or not providing for them in an adequate way, and then forcing them to have to provide a certain service for you. That's what free is. Because free doesn't exist. Right? And imagine this. She works a job and she's the head of a nonprofit. Maybe stop working for the nonprofit. Then you won't have to fucking pay for that childcare. You'll have more time in your day to provide for your child. Because there's this real feeling that it's your fault that you weren't savvy enough. Yes, you weren't savvy enough. That is the truth. It is your fault. It's your kid, is it not? Is your kid my kid, or is your kid your kid? Because if your kid is my kid, then I advocate the state forcefully takes your kids from you and forcefully, right? Basically castrates you so that you can't have any more kids because you're incapable of taking care of your kids. And yes, you got to go to work to provide for your kid. You absolutely have to. Or guess what? You don't have to work, but you can grow your own goddamn food and raise your own goddamn fucking livestock. And then you can slaughter them and defeather your fucking chickens and shit like that to cook your own meals to provide sustenance for your family. This is why you have to go to work, is because now we live in an organized system where people have jobs that provide services and products for other people that they otherwise are incapable of providing for themselves, which has caused us to stop having deaths due to nature, right? Natural causes. When you live in a structured society, you're gonna have more fucking man-made deaths and less natural caused deaths. When you live outside of a society, you're gonna have more naturally caused deaths and less man-made deaths, right? But yes, you have to go to work to pay for your kid. And if that means that you have to pay for fucking childcare services, then you should find somewhere that's more equitable for you. Not force everybody else to have to pay for the fucking care of your kid. And I guarantee you guys, childcare costs are going to go up. 5 years from now, Balin believes New York's childcare system will look a lot different. She's even helped with a roadmap to universal free childcare for not just New York City, but the entire state. And now that Mayor-elect Zohra Mamdani's taken over, Balin said she's hopeful that their shared dream of free childcare will come true. Again, no such thing as free and no such thing as universal. Mamdani won over New York because imagine this, right? This is the best part. Leftists don't have nearly as many kids as conservatives. I don't think leftists should be forced to pay for the child care of conservatives. Just like I don't believe that conservatives should be forced to pay for the child care of leftists, especially not leftists, because leftists are sent to fucking indoctrination camps. Mamdani won. None of that. But not everyone is confident in Mamdani's plan, which will require big changes to New York's current childcare system, an estimated $6 billion and hundreds more childcare workers to meet the city's needs. Those workers are already stretched thin and paid too little, experts say. Not to mention, even among those who agree universal childcare is the ultimate goal, there's a disagreement over how to achieve it. Still, with Mamdani's election, some advocates say New York City is closer than ever to making free childcare a reality. It won't be easy and it won't be overnight, but this is a policy that can absolutely happen, said Allison Silkowski, a senior policy advisor for New America's New Practice Lab, a liberal think tank based in Washington, D.C. So let me point this out to you guys. Here's the problem with childcare and why childcare is so expensive, right? Is that it's typically a one-for-one trade-off. Am I wrong? Right? Like, it was expected that it takes one person to care for one child semi-efficiently, not completely, but semi-efficiently. Okay? Why do you think that it's typically like, I don't know what the turnaround time is for a woman. Uh Vixen said he had to sleep. I hope you have a great day too, man. Sorry, I was caught up in my rants, right? But you have a good one as well. Hope you sleep good, man. Why is it that you have typically had, right? Like I was saying, I don't know what the turnaround rate for women is to get pregnant again after giving birth. I know, I think they could right away, but it's difficult. And I think the usual turnaround time is like a month or 2 months, right? So imagine this, that it takes a woman on average 9 months to have a baby. And then it takes a month or 2 months for her to be able to get pregnant again. You know what? Let me just fucking look it up. We have the power of the internet. How long does it take for a woman to be able to get pregnant after giving birth? 4 to 6 weeks after giving birth, even before your first postpartum period, but is generally recommended to wait 12 to 18 months for optimal health. So a woman on average between a month and a month and a half. Okay, so I was right. Man, look at that. I'm fucking great at what I do. Okay? On average, a woman has a month to a month and a half before she gets pregnant, before she can get pregnant again, right? So, so if she gets pregnant at a month and then she has to bring the child to bear for another 9 months, that would mean that if she just had a child, okay, her first child is at least almost a year old, and the difference between a newborn baby and almost a year old in terms of care is drastic. So imagine that, guys, that your child basically needs one for one care of every child, and the natural system, the natural cycle of a woman basically makes it optimal to where you can actually take care of a newborn and a baby and then so on and so forth, right? Like it becomes increasingly less amounts of work. Okay. So the point that I'm driving at here is that this is why childcare is so expensive. Is because you effectively need a one-for-one fucking person to take care of the child for that entire period of time. So that means you would literally need as many childcare workers as there are babies, right? For babies at least, right? As there are babies. And you would have to pay them whatever the fuck at least whatever the fuck the minimum wage is for New York. But you have to also couple that with their inflation, right? With their cost of living, with like specialized training and education that these individuals are probably required by law in New York to have in order to provide for babies. So then you just exploded the fuck out of your childcare. There's no feasible way to take care of it because of socialist policies. Again, this socialist belief structure, time and time again, it is going to come back and bite you in the ass because it makes everything exponential. Because you're advocating for taking money from everybody, decreasing their amount of wealth to provide for a social welfare program that only applies to people with babies. What? How does that make any sense? Because then what happens is those other people who don't have kids, they might be making less money than you. Or they're making more money than you. But the point of the matter is now they have less wealth for their style of living to provide for themselves. So then they become reliant on the state taking wealth from you to give to them for their standard of living. And then you have less money. So now you're reliant on the state taking more money from them to provide for your standard of living until everybody has nothing. It's either that or you decide to stop promoting diversity. The only functional forms of governance in this country that's so diverse are forms that allow freedom. So you either get rid of diversity or you get rid of this fucking dumb socialist bullshit. It's one of the two.
With the beat of the drum and the fife so high, we march with courage under the sky. Banners wave and hearts on fire. In the name of freedom we aspire. Through valleys green and mountains gray, in every night and every day, voices loud and banners bold, a tale of liberty unfold.